Are we live? And we are live. Hi everyone, welcome to EcoKnights Late Late Show, Sembang Alam, or some people might call it Sembang Malam, since we're in the middle of the night. I'm Fara, your guest host for tonight, and today we'll be joined by none other than our regular speakers, the faces of EcoKnights. So, a little bit background about what Sembang Alam is. It's actually a talk show that we just produced from Nightwatch Production. It's actually, like a internal production house by EcoKnights. So, in this talk show, what's unique about it is that every week we're going to have a different host talking about different issues, bringing up about different environmental issues, um, as we want to explore the views and perspectives of these guests from different generations. They come from different backgrounds, working at EcoKnights, sharing their what they study, what they believe in. So without further ado, tonight, let me introduce our regular speakers, the ever so lovely, our president and founder of EcoKnights, Dr. Yasmin Rasyid. Welcome, welcome, Dr. Yasmin.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
Hello. Hi. And next we have the ever so charismatic Ayat, our Vice President. Hello, Amle.
Hi Farah, hi
Where's to
everybody.
Amle?
Night. Good
Okay,
evening.
hi Amle. Okay, and
Good
then the
night. Baru start
finally,
lah.
baru start lah. And finally, the ever so fabulous program director of EcoKnights, Fadli Bakhtiar, or commonly known as Fabs. Hi, welcome, welcome.
Buka sikit nak tengok muka sikit.
Hello.
Okay, so how's everyone
Keeping
tonight?
it lively,
How are you
keeping it
guys
lively.
doing? How's you guys
Yeah,
doing?
good. Thanks. How are you?
I'm alright. How's my intro, guys? Do I need to, throw in a couple more adjectives for you guys there?
That
You
was
did
good.
well, as far as I'm
You
concerned.
make me nervous.
I'm making you nervous, or I'm making the fabulous Fats nervous. Okay. Okay, so just to share with the audience again, so tonight is actually our second episode. Our first episode was last week, where you can still watch it. It's still on our page. You get to know more. We talk about the journey of our speakers, how they first set foot into this sustainability field. So tonight we're going to go a little bit deeper about what sustainability is and the notion of sustainable living, particularly the perception of sustainable living. So before I pass this virtual floor to you guys, I want to talk about like what I understand about perception. So when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about perception, I see as our views in life, like how do we perceive certain things, and this is based on our life experiences. So if we look at one certain thing, we
Mm-hmm.
may invoke like a different emotions or different feelings or different reaction to the rest of the world, because everyone, we live our life differently. So that's how I see how people can perceive things differently. So to the speakers right now, I guess I'll start off with, what do you understand about perception? And from your observation, what is your perception of sustainable living in Malaysia, or, in general?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Who
Terdiam
wants to go
tiba-tiba.
first? Ini, mini, mo.
Ini,
I guess you have you. It
Who should
sounds like
start?
Farah, you have two
The one with the
questions
PhD,
there.
the one who's older, or the one who's...
Yeah,
Farah,
we're all
correct me
from
if I'm
different
wrong.
generations, man. Yeah?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you have two questions. One is you want to know what we define as perception, and you want to
Yes.
know then
And how you
what.
connect the perception of sustainable living. Yeah.
Hmm. I'll go first.
Sure. The,
Um,
the floor is yours.
mm, I, I don't know how to answer the first one without linking it to the second one, but I think perception is like my perception of sustainable living um, didn't come from a place where I think it's die also must do sustainable living kind of thing. For
Yeah.
me, I think my perception of sustainable living reflects a little bit of the values that I follow, or I think I'm great for more people than just me. So, for instance, like if sustainability is my utopia, it's not because it's bad to be driving a car, or it's bad to be running a business a particular way, but it's because everyone needs to be aware of values like being mindfulness. Mindfulness, I think, is important. Being factual, that's important as well, not denying information around you. Um,
Mm.
and also that desire to want to prolong something for the benefit of all. So that's my perception of sustainability. And I think by me crafting that perception that way,
Mm.
um, it gives a lot of clarity with understanding why I do the work I love to do. I can't imagine not knowing the why. Yeah,
Mm.
that's my
So
short
it's
answer.
more, yeah. So you're like sort of like this utopia, or like some sort of like a north that you if you want to prolong life, this is the way of life that I want to live in.
Prolonged prosperity that benefits everyone. I think if everyone realizes their role in
Mm.
it, and what actions everyone needs to take, not just lopsided the actions of one person to change the world, that ain't gonna happen. We all not superheroes. It takes collective action, and that reality can only be achieved if we know what kind of values 7.7 billion of us really
Mm.
uphold and believe in. If 6 billion of us don't give a shit about animals and wildlife, what does that say about the future of wildlife? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that shaped perception. When you don't know what is out there, it also skews your perception.
Mm.
So I think it's just um, something I hope and urge other people will understand that. And I think that's where this topic comes from, because while I understand clearly why I do sustainable living as
Yeah.
a focus area in my job, it means something totally different for Amle, Fadli, you, or anyone listening.
Mm.
Because of these varying differences, how do we then strike a chord to work towards something that we need to do collectively? So, how
Mm.
do you shape the perception of more people to think that this is the right way or right thing?
Yeah. Amli, what do you
Yeah.
think about, what's your perception of sustainable living? Thank you, Yasmin.
Mhm.
My idea of sustainability or sustainable livelihood is about the same as Yasmin. It starts from our values, and at the end of the day, our actions or our pattern of life is determined by how much we care for others, just like we want to care for ourselves. I think I will put it into that simple sentence. Mindfulness is something that I'm still trying to grasp, but based on the definition available, I think that's something which is very, very critical, based on my understanding, very critical in the achievement of sustainability or sustainable livelihood.
Mm.
That's basically in the nutshell.
Okay. How about you, Fadli? So, okay, so this is very interesting because just to share with the viewers out there. So, Yasmin and Amle, um, they studied environmental study. They went to actually learn about environmental studies, and I think me personally, I feel like I'm in a situation similar like Fadli, where we don't really in a formal education where we actually learn about environmental sustainability. So I think I'm very curious to know how we perceive sustainable living. So Fadli, could you share your notion of sustainable living? Yeah.
Okay, so uh, before I think before I start with my perception of sustainable living is that, I think my own definition, understanding, or perception to me is an interpretation of our senses, our sensations, you know, like the things that we accept through our senses, kan. So from there is like you interpret it, and from there it forms some sort of opinions or some sort of belief, right?
Mm.
So from that in your mind, you know, you receive it, and then the brain process, organize, and articulate it, and uh, then it goes to the action. So my perception of sustainable living is something that I think, based on the perception on sustainable living, is it keeps changing. To me, it keeps changing because it's as much as what I feel and what is also perceived from the world, you know, the people, everything that you live around you, which is this is the your living, right? And it's like a living organism, right? Like there's no one way to say that this is how it is, because everything moves in the different directions, you know. It's like this thing that happens all the time, and it keeps changing. To me, it keeps changing. But when I say keeps changing, is every day or every single time, as much as I'm try to be self-aware.
Oh, I think we just lost
and
the connection there.
uh,
Okay, we're back.
and I try to interpret, and I try to make. Am I? Yeah. Okay. So so what I mean is that, you know, to me it's always this sensory phase where I accept, I feel, I am aware, and then
Mm.
I process, and I try to make a better informed decision about, say, for me and for the people around me. So that's what is my perception on sustainable living lah. Yeah.
Mm. Okay,
So
so
to me it keeps changing. It keeps changing because no one knows what is right or wrong at this point, right? There's always different views about different things. So it's an ever going process to understand.
okay,
At least
just
that's for
to
me.
yeah, so just to dig a little bit deeper, that so you say that it's ever changing. So do you see as like a way of life, or like how we actually practice this notion? Like you say it's ever changing, but in what sense is it ever changing?
Yeah,
Did
because
I?
you are
Okay.
because you sense things differently every day. You know, not every day when you see the same thing. You don't see the same thing, right?
Mm,
You don't feel the same thing. Everything changes on every millisecond, or like as you know, as you live. So some parts of this, you know, like from the neuroscience, or from the psychological point of view, you know, it doesn't. It's not like there's only one way, lah. To me, every day there's a different there's a different feeling about things,
mm,
but you always have to refer back to, you know, what is around. And I think with a lot of more information, critical information, facts, and trend and patterns and all these things that have been developed, right? That it makes more sense lah. If you think like how people in the last 100 years, for example, or thousands of years, they've been, I think, living sustainably. It's
mm,
just that they cannot interpret it, you know, because perhaps their level of articulations and their level of intelligence or just human development have not reached where we are now.
yeah.
But nonetheless, I think they still live some sort of sustainable living. And Yasmin can agree with me. We always talk about, you know, how our grandparents have all these sustainable living practices, but they just do it, right? It's not like it's more articulate as compared to now. So I think now, because there's so many things that's happening, so there's a lot of things that keeps changing in my mind.
Okay. So okay. So you mentioned about this like thousand of years, how people have been living this way of life, and then Yasmin, you mentioned about this mindfulness, and so now we get a general idea of what you guys think personally what sustainable living is.
But I,
So
but can
mm-hmm,
I add one thing? I
mm-hmm,
think we also have to be realistic. Thousands or hundreds of years ago, the life was shit,
mm,
you know. life is much better today. And doesn't mean that they understood green is the same way we understand green today. Why
Yeah.
my grandma didn't waste food was because there was no food to waste. You don't freaking throw your food away. You eat everything you have because you don't know what you're going to get the next day. That's like when you're forced to be aware of these things, you don't waste. But now we waste a lot. So we've got to be careful when we say it was greener back those days. Yes, it was,
Mm.
but we had very little to do. We had very little technology. Then the Industrial Revolution came, people
Yeah, that's why I
traveled,
say it keeps
you
changing. You know,
know?
Mm.
in the next 50 years or 100 years, yeah, but what my point is in the next 50 years or 100 years, it could be different also. You know, what we were
Oh, yes,
thinking about
definitely.
sustainable living now might be obsolete. So I'm
Yeah,
just saying
it's
that
the
it's an
same for
ever-going,
everything,
changing process of
technology.
understanding.
Hmm.
Mm. So okay, so we're talking about
Mm.
people living back then and now. So I guess my next question is like from your observation, like
Hmm.
either from growing up or your upbringing or working in this environmental field for the past 10, 20 years or more, what what do you see or observe of our own society's perception about what sustainable living was back then and what is it now? Like, can we pull the focus within the Malaysian context?
Anyone want to go first?
Okay, I'll start. Uh,
Yeah.
with regards to perception, the society's perception of sustainable living, if you're talking about the term sustainable living about 20 years ago, I believe it's a very, very rare term. Okay.
Yeah.
And even if you're talking about the concept of sustainable living 20 years ago, maybe people understand that sustainable living is in general and eco-friendly or green living. At that
Mm.
at that time, about 20 years ago, it's not a very popular term. But was a, if the term was being used, it was referred to as green or eco-friendly or environmentally friendly kind of living, which whose terms I'm not very I'm quite reluctant to use environmentally friendly, green, and eco-friendly.
Mm.
Uh, but the term has been used more widely nowadays. And during those times, 20 years ago, a lot of stress were given on, I think, two aspects. One is the natural environment, where people talk about, like I said before, people stress on the use of wild products from the wild, and also more focused on the urban society, where people talk about recycling, three R's, uh, using less, saving this and saving that. Those are the focus, even 10 years ago, and still the
Mm.
focus right now. So I believe that we are going through a process of understanding more what is sustainable living. Like I said before, the basis of sustainable living, as far as I'm concerned, and it has been my understanding for quite some time, is based on the value that we should be caring for others, just like we want to care for ourselves. And that means if we really understand the concept, it means that we need to use our resources carefully and only when needed. I'm not going to stress so much on reduce, even though it's a very important concept in the urban communities. But to be fair to all societies, I think it's more towards a very wise use of nature resources, whether in the original form or in the processed form. So it means that when you say wise usage or wise utilization is something which is stressed in some definitions of sustainable development. Wise is a very relative or very subjective a term. I have stressed that even the word the term sustainable development is very subjective, and I had already mentioned during the first episode that sustainable development, which is a big term, can be compressed into one concept, and that is the kind of development that had been agreed upon based on an informed decision making, either by an individual or the community, because different cultures, different communities, even sub communities, even in one district, you're gonna have different perceptions. Okay,
Yeah.
perceptions of what sustainability is. It's very, very, not to say blur, the concept is clear, but the differences in understanding what is sustainable might be different from one community to another, from one individual to another individual, even between individuals in the same family, it could be different. So again, the process for me, I mean personally, I've gone through this process of trying to understand what is
Yeah.
sustainable livelihood. And when I highlight these ideas to some people, they say that I'm a selfish person because I always stress the survival of the present and human generations. But that's what we are doing right now. The only way we can be green or very not selfish is to disappear from the face of this earth. That's the only way. The moment you eat your rice, you are not eco-friendly anymore. The
The moment
moment
a
you drive
child
a
is born.
car, yes,
Mm.
the production of rice is it goes through so many processes which use, if you look at the flow, the flow of production, or as economists say, production flow, you're going to see a lot of resources and energy which are being used.
Yeah, we're
So we
exhausting
are
all these resources.
Yes, so it's not environmentally friendly at all, but we can say environmentally friendlier or eco-friendlier or greener, because you have options. You just use which one is most fit or friendliest from your point of view. It could be different from another community, from another individual, but in your context, you have to choose which one based on that informed decision making process, which is I normally call education. Okay.
Mm.
I think that should be
Um.
good enough for
Yes.
now.
Yasmin, how about you? Like from your, because I know you grew up, in some of your interviews you mentioned that your mother was very minimal and you learn about minimalism from her. So what's your take? Like, how do you view the world, like from little growing up now working in the environmental field? Has there been a shift
Well,
there about society's perception?
oh, definitely. And I think this shift in society's position is really catapulted or catalyzed by the role of technology and media. We probably got to know more about being mindful about conservation and all that at a younger age from a very different level of perception. It is to protect, it is to love, to appreciate, to cherish nature or heritage. But then sustainable living expanded as a concept. It's just not about wildlife, the green issues. It's also the brown issues, things that happen in the city. And rightfully, city issues should be mentioned a bit more as well, because, in just a couple of decades, 87% of us will all be living in cities. So there is a lot more tension and stress in these areas. And how technology has helped is, while technology like social media is a great channel for a lot of information, it's also a lot of risk for misinformation. And it really depends what camp you're in, because that will shape the perception. And I
Mm.
know this because I get it a lot. Like, Yasmin, you say use paper is better than plastic, but don't you realize paper is made from trees as well? I get that a lot. Or like, if you say, um, green technology is good, why aren't you driving a hybrid? I mean, there's a lot of things into play because there's so many segments of society to deal with. But in general, I'm positive. I think the perception is definitely more diverse and there's definitely more attention now. just take the topic climate change itself. In less than 2 decades, the media has really helped that topic grow. And I think today, if you throw a stone in a crowd, the chances of someone hearing climate change is higher than it was 20 years ago. So while the perception is there, I think the challenge is how do you then use that, shape that perception to create action. And I think that's the
Yes.
business we're in EcoKnights. It's to inspire sustainable living, is to actually try to do that fundamental things Amlir mentioned, education, awareness, and with the right information, education, and awareness, respecting that there are different ways of doing certain things that is sustainable. I'm just going to use composting as example. Buat mana cara yang lagi sesuai, and you know what? I'm so tired when people ask me, Bokashi better or this method better. At the end of the day, you should be able to decide what method works for you when you look around your house and see what you can do within your means. It's not about one green method or green technology or green tool is more superior than the next. I, for one, am the kind that would not subscribe to kena beli benda baru untuk jadi green. I really don't believe in that philosophy. It's really a mindset. And we've also got to be more respectful of people's different perceptions and definitions of sustainable living, because everyone's starting off at a different level. Some people do it because it makes sense. Some people do it because I don't want to throw food out. Some people do it because I like feeling good from it. Some people do it because I love the spirit of volunteerism. So everyone's got a different reason, different motive for doing it. And the faster we realize and embrace these differences, I think it's faster we can actually create better traction for this movement, because there isn't really an ultimate way. There is a framework and guideline, but it's called a framework and guideline. You know what I mean? If you don't put yourself in that equation, then you will never be able to understand what path you need to take to attain some level of sustainable living. And I don't mean sustainable living in a purist kind of way as well. You do what you can within your means, because you are aware of your limitations and you are aware of your strengths.
I think when you mention about people, sometimes people are always arguing macam, for example, you terlupa about your tumbler, right? And then you use a cup, but then you use a metal straw. So just like a contradictory, like, oh, kau guna plastic tumbler, tapi kau guna metal straw. There's those people that actually like downgrade people punya initiative to actually start this sustainable living.
Yeah, I've got one example, Fara. Like Thanos. Everyone sees him as a bad guy, right? But you know what? You should just have one whole movie.
Because he actually makes sense.
Yes. And like, you know what? He deserves a full hour movie so that we
Just
understand what he means. Like that snapping that fingers, he brought back some balance in his view, in his perception, in his world. Less Avengers is more peaceful, right? You can look at it that way.
I disagree with his method.
less carbon footprint.
His intention is good. Why 50% of the people's earth? Or their
But he didn't choose. He didn't choose who wanted.
He just snapped.
Yes.
I think it was the world
selection
that decided who left.
I think he believes that 50%, the 50% of the world population is consuming too much. So he says that
Thanos knew the concept of carrying capacity.
Can you elaborate more?
It's like the world is finite. Everything is finite. It can only cater to X number of people. If you put a rat in a box, Pungan, it will only produce the number of kids that the box can hold. And it will probably eat up the rest of the baby kids, because they can. Even animals do that biologically, naturally.
I have
population
problems.
control.
I have problems with population growth as the main reason for the problems on Earth today. One person might use 50% of the resources, and the other person might use more.
5%.
So so it's not about the size of the population, but the quality of the population.
Fair and equitable access. Not everyone in the world is given a fair and opportunity to access the same things.
Yeah.
If
Correct.
everyone is born equal with the same technology, same education, same access, maybe it will be a different utopia.
Different
But
perception.
yes, the truth is the economic imbalances in the world contribute to a lot of why sustainability is so
Okay,
hard to achieve.
yeah. So we actually received a couple of questions here, but before we go to these questions by the audience, thank you so much, guys. You can keep on just sharing more questions. But I think before we go there, I just want to know, because you guys mentioned about like education is one thing, and also like understanding what sustainable living is first before we can actually shape our minds to actually do it. So I think there's a bit of like a gap in society nowadays between like they understand or their level of awareness is there, but it's not being converted into action. So what do you guys think about that?
Sorry, I
Like,
was looking at the FB question and that distracted me. Thanks for the
okay, so
question, Azri. Really good one.
yeah, and also like I want to throw some of situations here. So for example, um, I had some instances. This was before there was the rules and regulation of plastic. Kena bayar 20%. So I remember when I was working by EcoKnights, of course I know about how plastic is detrimental to the environment and all that. So I remember bila I beli barang and I said, oh, I tak nak guna plastic, and then she was like, oh no, ni free je. So I cakap, oh memang tak nak plastik. Sebab from what I come from is because I don't want to use it because it's bad for the environment. But to her, she doesn't understand that. And then also another situation, when we already imposed to pay 20 cents to if you want to use a plastic bag. And then there was instances where like all this FNB they're the implement this rule, but then there was like this loss in translation between like the execution of it and the management of it and the people in front handling the businesses. For example, I went to this FNB punya branch, I won't say where. Kita dah we say no to plastic straw, right? Like it's banned already. So when and they're only gonna give it bila orang minta for it kan. And then I remember like I sit down and I saw the worker bila orang having their lunch break, diorang sendiri guna the plastic straw. So I think for me, I some sort see like that's the irony there, like we're implementing this, but there's not enough knowledge transfer between what we are implementing to the people to really understand why we're imposing these certain things. So I guess my question to you guys, like, what do you guys think about this, and what is actually the root of the problem there, like, and how can we solve this actually?
Yasmin, you want to go
Solve the
first?
discrepancies, solve the difference in
Yeah, I think
solve.
that's what Farah meant. Right, Farah?
Like from level of awareness into action.
I'm gonna probably refer back to, and I don't know whether this makes sense, but Simon Sinek says, in order to get more people to, I think he meant it more from a brand perspective or sales perspective. In order to get people to buy what they need, show them the way how to do it. I think it resonates with whether, in general, society understand the why they're doing it. So maybe your company has a policy about banning plastics. I wonder whether the company has trained or informed their staff on why this is being done. And I think the reason why the straw got banned so fast as well is because a couple of years back, I think we all saw a viral video of
The
a
turtle.
turtle
Yeah.
had I mean, it could have been, I don't know, some other thing, and that would have been banned. You know what I mean? It didn't have to be a straw. It could have been some other plastic stuck up there, and that thing would have been banned. It's because it really poked humanity's emotions. People felt for a turtle. Look, it's crying, and then got blood coming out. And that visual demonstration, that visual representation, really resonated with a lot of people. That we should stop harming them by stopping our habits, right? But then still in the ocean, there's tons of other crap that's there that's harming our wildlife. marine wildlife from, throwing nets illegally in the ocean or fish bombing, and you'd be surprised not many Malaysians know fish bombing happens in our shores. So again, it really, kalau you nak tahu information ni, it's everywhere. It's just that how do you get people to search for this?
Yes.
If you wake up every morning, I'll ask you, AI, what's your top 10 search on Google hari ni? I doubt lah.
Yeah.
Environment is one of them.
Always the last one.
Macam mana aku nak selamatkan dunia?
Always push to the back. No one ever thought
I
of
mean,
that.
the day it's like top 10 trending, I'll be like eating my own words, I think. But yeah, it's not urgent.
Yes.
Orang lain akan buat. Kerajaan
Yasmin,
kena
disaster
buat
happen
sesuatu.
baru.
Korporat lah kena bayar lebih untuk ni.
Yasmin,
Tapi apa position your role? Yes,
Yeah, Amlir.
Amlir.
nowadays, what do people Google most? Right now,
Online shopping.
TikTok.
Wow.
online
Still.
shopping.
Still.
How many people are dead because of COVID-19?
COVID-19 probably tops it all.
COVID-19. When can we go out? What should we do? Why? Because people value life. And they are willing to stay at home for 2 months, 3 months. Because why? Because they value
Takut
life.
mati.
Yes. They are willing to change their lifestyle almost 100%, 180 degrees because they value life. Now, can we make that connection
Do
between
they?
and life, between plastic and life, between deforestation and life? If we can make that, that's why I mentioned earlier, it's from the value. And this value, where do we get it? That's why I believe that education has a very, very strong role. We are not going to we cannot 100% of the time enforce the people to do something good for the environment, to stop polluting. But the best enforcement is self-enforcement. You don't need anybody to enforce you. You don't need anybody to punish you. You do it because you want to, because you believe in it. If people believe that coronavirus is so dangerous that it will kill you, they're going to avoid going out. They are going to avoid to even meet the people they love because they don't want the people they love to die. And this is one thing that we need to stress because it's about motivation. People are doing something because they are motivated to do something. Why are they motivated to do something? Because they have a certain value. If they value life very much, then they will be committed and motivated to do something which will protect their life. And I think in sustainable living, in promoting sustainable living, we have to go for that. Even if you say, oh no, we have to go for enforcement. Now, the enforcement officers, why are we having with enforcement officers? Because some of them are not motivated. If you create that motivation, not only amongst the enforcement officers, enforcement people, but the policy makers, the decision makers, if we manage to switch on that motivation, then they will do something, even if you don't ask them to do something. They will be resourceful. They will look for the information instead of looking, in the YouTube every morning looking for entertainment and whatsoever. There's nothing wrong with looking for entertainment in the YouTube.
Yeah.
But if you make a statistical study of how many watched the Korean movie or
Drama.
whatever compared
Going
to
viral. Yeah.
compared to environmental issues, there's going to be huge difference. So basically, in the nutshell, what is important is trying to motivate people. Schools have these motivation courses for mathematics, English, and whatnot. But do we have a camp, 1 day or 2 day camps, to motivate students to separate their garbage? People are not motivated even to throw a rubbish into rubbish bin. How do you motivate that? If they have that value, which I believe in the Malaysian context can be sparked at the preschool level, then hopefully we can achieve something.
Yeah,
What
but
do you,
you need parents to have those values also lah, Amli.
I know
Right?
that's the problem. How
Kan
to get
budak
the
ni
parents?
belajar yang baik kat sekolah, betul? Mak,
Parents
ni nak
tak
buang kat
buat.
mana? Buang je lah kat mana-mana. Kalau macam tu,
You know,
hancur lah.
Yasmin, that reminds me of a situation. I was at the National Art Gallery. It's a quiet place, so I can hear people talking, even if they whisper, okay? So while I was watching this big painting, there was this father who was approached by his daughter, who was about, I think, 8 or 9 years old. And I can hear her daughter saying to the father, "Where do I throw this chocolate wrapper?" And the father said, "Where do you get that chocolate wrapper? I didn't bring any chocolates." And the daughter said, "I found it on the floor and I want to find a place to throw it." And the father said, "Now you have to look for the rubbish bin." So the father not only taught the child to be aware of the importance of cleaning up the earth, but also to find herself for herself where is the rubbish bin. Now I'm very when I heard this, I felt very optimistic about us changing or
Mm.
creating a sustainable lifestyle. I'm optimistic, even though before this a lot of people say no, we have to use enforcement. You cannot. It's too late to educate the Malaysians and whatnot. I think that's crap. We can change the people.
Well, that's our role. Anyway, Fadli, what do you think about this? Like, how do we change? Awareness is there, but the action and participation is, we want more of that. Are we here? Fadli is here.
Well, I've been trying to
Fadli,
absorb
we can't hear
everything.
you. Or
Yeah,
there's
yeah. Can
technical
you hear me?
problem.
Can
Fadli,
you hear me now?
Earth to Fadli.
Can you hear me now?
Fabs.
I can hear you, Fali.
Can you hear me? You can?
Farah, you cannot hear Fali.
Yeah. Is it just me now?
Amlir can hear me?
Facebook community. Can you hear Fadli?
Amlir,
The
can
rest
you
of
hear
the
me?
world.
Amlir, main lagu sikit.
Amlir, can
Lagu
you hear
apa?
me, Amlir?
Sedona.
Jasmine, can you hear
I
me?
think a lot of people are
Yes.
watching.
Oh, we can.
Well,
Farah, only
yeah.
Farah
Fadli
couldn't
is
hear me.
talking right now.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, so well, I've been like absorbing everything that both of you have been exchanging for the past 10 minutes, I think. And I think, I mean, because I can say this because I came not from the environmental sort of like academic background, and to me, at the main reason for me basically at that point was survival, right? I didn't have anything to do. I was like just looking for anything to sort of have a grip of life. And I think what I understand about the process or the journey of sustainable living for me for the past 13 years is really through it's really I say it again, it keeps changing because you see different people, different communities, you see, like they have a different sort of understanding, perception, and you don't want to impose anything to them, but rather, try to empathize and try to see how what you can do or how you can rationalize all these things. And I think in the level of awareness in my era, which is probably about 10 years, is definitely changing. I think definitely changing in the sense that everyone is, when I say everyone, is you see more and more of movements, individuals, activists that speaks about things that is not on the surface anymore. You know, you see people talk about practical matters, right? Like 3R or like use public transportation or anything that is more practical lah, save money. But also more people, especially young people, that goes into something I feel like more ideological, right? Like that's why you have different groups that is championing certain things, and it's a serious matter that they're fighting for. And I think the gap is between, again, it's people who are actually doing something in terms of, like being practical, and ideological. So that's what I've been thinking a lot, for a while now. Like, the way to reach out to people is different. Of course, everybody has a different way to perceive things, but I think there should be a balance between those lah. So what I mean by, ideological and practical is that, I think both of you have mentioned perhaps some of the ideological point of view, and I have this one very interesting point I want to share. We've been trying for the past many years kan, kita buat program composting kan C4C, bukan C4C, G2G, right? We do G2G, and people, we always talk about, oh, this thing is going to help and, save the world, and ammonia lah, and all these things, greenhouse gases, and macam-macam benda yang ideological lah, to me ideological. So when I went to many of those, including, or conducted some, and looking at different people, my team performing or conducting, and then I came out to this one thing that I always told them. What I said is, uh, we throw stuff every day. Like, we throw stuff every day from our kitchen, usually from our kitchen, almost every day. Because why? Because we mix, organic waste and non-organic waste. The food, and we and the non-organic. And because of this organic waste, we have to throw it every day because we don't our house to be smelly lah kan.
Hmm.
Ada busuk ke, basi ke, ada leach ke. So kita buang hari-hari. Yeah, so imagine orang buang hari-hari kan. I mean I think our office used to, some years ago, we throw things every day because all the food. But just because we change this one fundamental thing, what if we separate non-organic dengan organic? We separate that. And the organic, we put it in one bucket, and the non-organic, we put in the bin lah. And the feedback and the survey that we did, almost 50% of people, after they did it, and this are through our G2G programs, right? More than 50% actually throw their waste outside at least once in 2 days, just by separating non-organic and organic. That already it reduce their, their non-organic waste by 50%, one house, or one participant, and you times it by 30 participants. So to me, when I try to think about how do we bridge the gap between what people understand and what people want to do, uh, sometimes it's really trying to see what is the most common sense to them, to me. So because of that, I feel like it's much easier for the audience to make sense tau. Dia dengar macam, oh, imagine you buat ni, and then you buang only 50% of your week, and then imagine satu row rumah you, buat benda yang sama. Imagine satu kampung you buat, you're cutting everything by 50% of the waste going to landfill. And some of them, even a small percentage of them, in the survey, said that they are at a point of only throwing trash once a week outside for the operator to pick up lah kan. So we've been talking about, composting nitrogen, carbon, like, wow, this, like all these complex things, and suddenly you tell them that, if you do this, separate this, you are solving half of the problem already. And they were like, oh, that's easy, yeah. And then what do we do with the organic waste? Because basi kan, okay, now we're telling you there is a way to treat it. Instead of coming and say like, oh, G2G is this garbage, blah blah blah. I think I think we have to always improve the way we try to understand how people can relate to things, and time it over thousands of other things that we consider or that is really proven as being sustainable, right? So the work is really really hard, because you have to try and make it simplify as much as possible,
Yeah, like sort
practical.
of like humanize what sustainability
Yeah,
is.
yeah, layman term lah. I think that's what we've been trying to do, right? I think that's what we at one point being in a way successful in my term is like, like we always have people who want to try and engage and like what we do and try to know, understand how we do things. I think that's what I keep saying about changing, because today you have this idea of like this is how you have to approach them, and then when you approach them, you feel like it's probably not very effective, and then you have to think like, how do you change, how do you change, how do you change, because people is not easy. Probably the hardest thing to convince people about something lah. And I feel like our
Yeah.
mission, the hardest mission or our is to entice more people who are not eco-friendly.
Mm.
Like imagine inviting someone who has not much information or understanding or interest in the environment to listen to the show. Like, what would you say to them so that they would try to say, okay, I might click, I might listen to what these 3 or 4 people has to say.
Yeah.
Like,
So
yeah,
yeah, I guess going back to like um changing all this perception, going to the behavior and all that, I feel like um the way we talk about green living or sustainability is some sort like it's a trend that we have to follow, when it's not. It's not separate. It's like a way of life. It should be part of how we live and how we see life, to be sustainable, to prolong life. How you guys say about being mindful, not within ourselves and outward towards how we connect with human beings and the environment and all that. That's sustainability in itself. Yeah. We have a few couple of questions here.
Yeah,
We
bring them
have
on.
one. We have one from Lana. So we already talked about education, about how do we want to change perceptions and all that. And Amli also mentioned that the news right now is like COVID-19 and we're staying at home and all that. So there's one question by Lana. She asked, would you say working from home, which soon becoming a new norm, it's our new norm right now, can be one part contributing towards sustainable living, and whether this should be further pursued by organizations? And I guess corporate and businesses, I guess, yeah. What do you guys think? It's the new norm.
I think it's a norm for certain big companies already in the past. I mean, like WordPress, for instance, like they would have colleagues that are, some are at home, some rent workspaces, and I think some of these companies even give you like an office startup fee, and you can work anywhere in the world. But of course, there's certain discipline that needs to be in place from work from home. But if you're just using sustainability as a reason to say it's greener, therefore, and then your productivity goes down, then maybe you may have to think about that. But in general, I think it's a norm that will happen quite fast, will pick up quite fast. We're all global citizens now. And it also depends on the nature of your job. A building won't be constructed remotely. It will still need human to construct it. So there are still some
yep,
jobs that, I mean, maybe you can robotize a lot of things, but certain things still need that human connection. So a service industry, for instance, right? So yes, if a lot more companies realize that they can reduce their carbon footprint by allowing this flexibility at work, and able to quantify that difference and demonstrate to other people in their sector that this is an innovative way of the new future of work, I can definitely see it being done more popularly or more commonly, because it does save money, rental space, that kind. It does make some economic sense, while it clearly makes environmental sense. So we have to balance that. And if you're a company that's got a mindset of like no hoods for sustainability, then keep dreaming about working from home.
Now that situation arises.
Government will be hard lah. I think if you're a government staff, you have to, I don't know. And you know what? Just to break this is a whole new topic by itself, because at the end of the day, it depends what kind of leadership you exemplify in a company. If you have trust from your people, people are clear in their goals, yes, your company will rock, even though if you don't have a physical place. But if your leadership is crap, that's a totally different topic.
Yeah, because we actually received one question that actually asked about that from Jeff
Leadership?
Hashim. Yeah, how do
Hi,
we drive
Jeff.
the idea of sustainability in corporate companies and bring those thoughts to the leadership stakeholders? But I guess, do you want?
This is, I think, highlighted in episode 1, where we talked about how majority of us are shareholders of some of these big companies that are not doing things sustainably. So Jeff, minta maaf, but maybe if you can go back to episode 1, that we talk extensively about that one, more like the financial aspect, the capital control aspect of it. Yeah.
Okay,
but that's
then
a good question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. And also, we talk about individual from the individual aspects, from the corporate aspect. Now we have another question from Jeff Hisham as well, talking about can social enterprise startups in Malaysia actually collaborate with universities to leverage sustainability analytics to help organization drive their impact? I guess more on from the educational or like the tertiary level. What do you guys think about that?
I think there's already that kind of collaboration happening, Jeff. Like I'm about to work with a university research partner who are incubating startups and social enterprises. And I can't wait for that partnership to roll out, because it will really look at how it will really test the social enterprise in terms of its practicality, reliability. Can it scale? Can it really make that kind of impact it says it will make? And the research element comes in strong, because you need to be data driven to be able to quantify and qualify what impact is, what social impact is. How do you put a number to it? How do you put a figure to it? What is normal? What is below normal? I have to say Malaysia is still taking really baby steps in this. If you ask, kalau aku tolong, tiap-tiap tahun aku tolong 100 orang kurang upaya, aku bagi sponsors RM50 ni, RM50,000 setahun. And at the back of my mind, I'll be like, okay, can you tell me what sort of social impact have you made? That 50,000 tu pergi kat mana? How do you quantify that kehidupan you need to improve based on that 50,000 over that 1 year. So kita tak ada data macam tu lagi, and it's been talked about a lot. Agency Inovasi Malaysia is the organisation that is championing this under MOSTI. So I'm following up from them as well. They've made a brilliant report in 2017 on which stakeholders we need to talk to get this kind of value, and boleh quantify, boleh legit lah kan. Like every dollar you put, you know exactly how it's changing lives, right? So kita jauh lagi lah, tapi I hope this dimension of this topic can be really taken seriously by governments, because we don't know every year if sustainability is $1 trillion industry in this Malaysia, is it making $1 trillion back of impact or not, and in what dimension and in what magnitude, we don't know. So study lah korang kalau student tu tengah tuning in.
Yeah.
Environmental economics, whatever you want to call it. The name changes all the time. Study it, push that boundary towards the social element. Sebab kalau benda ni tak memberi impact social ataupun alam sekitar, I don't know. And if you don't know how to calculate it, hancur lah. Why are we doing what we're doing?
So actually, we have already shared in the comment section that there's a study done a review on environmental education. So that can be like a supplementary read for you guys this week coming ahead. Okay.
Cikgu pula.
Okay, so going back to sustainable living and perception, guys. Okay, kita nak lighten the mood sikit. I
Alamak,
really want
I
to
serious
know. I really want to know
I dah
like
sampai dah tak boleh cakap lah. I macam,
the deep
Kejap,
state.
kejap.
mak,
I
Sangat
pause
macam mana nak
kejap.
tambah
I hilangkan muka I.
but no,
Intense lah. Topik ni intense lah.
I would like
Serious.
to
okay.
Okay, tarik nafas
Deep
semua.
state. We are in deep state.
Okay,
Deep state,
so my question is, because we're talking about perception, right? What is that one perception that people have about sustainability, tak kisahlah whether it's good or bad, that you want to change? Is there any?
That it costs money to do it.
Change.
It's
That I have to
expensive.
buy something. No, I mean, I think it's also the consumerism bug. I mean, buy something, therefore, I buy an organic candle. It's like $60, padahal candle biasa RM10 kan. And I'm
Buat
doing
sendiri
my
lah.
bit. I'm doing my bit. Padahal candle tu dah travel dari US ke Malaysia, dah burn carbon, dah came in plastic, but we felt good because it's organic. So benda-benda macam ni kelakar lah. But someone's got to start somewhere. Just don't stop buying organic candles. But the next level is tanya lah produk ni datang mana. That kind of thing, basic things. Tapi itulah, nak masuk deep state ni, you kena berani juga ah. Kalau you nak shallow state boleh juga.
Amlir, Fadli, how about you guys?
I think the people need to have the right values to be able to achieve that level of commitment to search or to browse or to explore or to be resourceful. That's why I said if people have the right values, they'll be more committed. They will be more motivated and then committed to do something. And they will look for the information themselves and they might come up with new ideas. Even if you are, like I said earlier, if you have the right values, even the policymakers, without pressure from the public, without pressure from the NGOs, they will do something for the public. And I've seen this before. You may have come across people, foreigners in Malaysia who pick up rubbish from
Japanese.
the floor or from the Japanese. I met a few people I remember there was a situation in Sabah where at the jetty of Kota Kinabalu, and I saw this group of Koreans, and a small kid was picking, and they were strangers, and a small Korean kid about 5 years old picked up rubbish and put it in the rubbish bin, and the entire Korean group clapped their hands. Yay! And the kid went out to look for another rubbish and put it until the crowd has to stop the kid to stop picking up rubbish and cleaning up the whole jetty. Okay, so it shows that not only the kid has the values, but the people around them
Encourage him.
yes, encourage him. Do you see this kind of people? If I remember
Where?
cleaning, I remember
Moral
cleaning up
support.
my spot along a river so that I can have picnic with my friends. And somebody across the river asked me, "Why are you picking up the rubbish? The majlis will come over and pick up the rubbish." So you can see the difference in terms of perspective, perception, and also values. In some cases, you may have seen foreigners picking up rubbish along the beaches, and I'm not sure whether I have answered your question. How do you minimize this gap between awareness and also action? I believe that we have to build that motivation. I have to be short here because it's already 1 hour. You have to build up the motivation and then the commitment. How to do that? We may have to ask the education people or the psychologists. How do you motivate? Different people have different reason of motivation. But Malaysians in general, they're all scared of losing their lives. That's why they stay home. That one for sure.
Fadli, how about you? What do you
funny.
think the one perception about sustainable living? that you would like to change?
I'm rather quiet. I'm rather quiet tonight. I think.
No, you're not.
I mean, I've been thinking about how, because, huh?
Fadli dah deep jauh sana dah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because I think
Okay, next.
no, because I feel like
No, I thought dia punya
I
screen
feel
froze
like
tau just now.
Uh-oh. Aku
yeah,
ingat
I'm
sama.
actually like in my Zen mode, and
Ada
Okay.
soalan lagi tak,
my
Farah?
my opinion
Yeah,
is
checking
that
through.
Yeah, why not go through this?
I
Okay,
think the
there's
challenge
one
is
point.
yeah.
Can I stress? Din Muzaidin mentioned about traditional living. Okay, I want to relate to something that I believe is true but
What is
difficult
traditional
for me.
living?
It's like indigenous way of living, very macam orang asli, you know. They don't use electricity, but can we go back to that kind of living? It's gonna be
Not
difficult.
realistic. It's not realistic.
Well,
I mean,
people have done it,
data is already there. 87 to 90% of human population will be staying in cities. This is the predictor.
of course,
A lot of
of
people are
course.
coming because there's just more opportunities in cities. And Din Muzaidin would know this. So
I know it's
it's a
it's not
fact.
realistic. It's not realistic, but he is going to the extreme example which actually works. Imagine orang asli, or imagine 50% of the population of Malaysia live like orang asli. Do you think we're gonna have these problems? A lot of environmental problems? No, but it's difficult. I don't think it's possible for 50% of us to go there. But that's why I said the greenest
No.
society in Malaysia is the orang asal community. But we may not be able to live in such a way. But United
I
Nations have already
yeah.
recognized in their document for SDG that in order for us to achieve SDG 2030, we have to learn from the indigenous people. That's one point. To sidetrack, the document also, the main SDG 2030 document also mentioned that in order for us to achieve all 16, well, there are 17, but in order for us to achieve 16 of the SDG number 4 is the most important thing. It will help to achieve the others. And SDG number 4 is education.
I
Yasmin,
think Farah,
would you like to add? Yeah.
can you please take note that we should have a Sembang Alam on the SDGs? Because Malaysia sucks in achieving 16 of the goals. It'll be interesting to see and hear from people who are fighting or believe in SDGs. I love to hear their views. What are they
Yeah.
doing about it? And get someone from the government, this government, to present their views on the SDGs.
Become a
I'm
host.
curious.
There's a queue for our
To
next
be a host.
host next week.
It'll be interesting.
Yes.
Sebab
If
based on facts,
if you have any suggestion of a government official or officer that can be our guest host, please drop down your comment
or if you
so
want to
we
be
can reach
one.
out to or tag them. So maybe we can apa dia?
Yeah. I mean, I forgot what I wanted to say. Sorry.
Okay. Before we,
Dah larut malam lah.
I think we can wrap
Can,
this
can, okay,
up.
can I also stress something?
Yes,
I think
Amlir.
there is a lot of misconception about education. A lot of people think that education is about telling people what to do. No, education is not about telling people what to do, but education is about telling people what to do in order to be enable them to know what to do. Okay, we're not telling them what to do. We are enabling them to decide what to do. And this is what sustainability is all about. It's about giving them the ways on how to facilitate the process of decision making. We cannot, like I said before, and I've said many times, we cannot tell people or any communities to do what is the best because they know what's the best for them. But we facilitate the process in order for them to choose the right options, the right alternatives in achieving sustainability.
Yasmin or Fadli, would you like to add
Yeah,
on
so
that?
Yeah,
What's
so
the
I think
question?
what I understand about it
Education.
is that, and I've been thinking about it, uh, uh, is education is not indoctrination. I think what Amlir meant by was trying to say about education is not about telling people what to do. I think that's indoctrination.
Yes, true.
Education is again
Yes,
allowing or like presenting informations or knowledge or various references for people to be able to make the decisions on what they want to understand, and then
correct.
make the decisions for themselves, right? Because if even if we tell people like, oh, this is wrong, this is right, to me it's not education. So it has
That's
to be
propaganda.
about,
That's brainwashing. That's
yeah. So
indoctrination.
yeah. So that's why we see in our family members or people who are close to us, why they don't change the way they're living, like why we are at this point of life where we have a empowered or we are very inspired, passionate to do something, and we see even the closest people around us that doesn't do that. Some people force. Usually we use that for our kids. Like, don't do this, don't do that. Like, this is how you should live. This is how you shouldn't live. To me, is indoctrination. I don't want that. I don't
I
want that for my family. I don't want that for my kids. So I always try to either explain and present it with different perspective. And once they are, perhaps I know how to read, my kids know how to read or know how to find certain things. For me, is to always facilitate and provide them with, a safe space for them to explore and make their own opinions. And they have to test. Opinions is opinions. Like maybe younger generation, they have opinions, they believe in something, they believe in that. But another thing is to test. It's not tested. So moving from education is action, right? When you actually use whatever you feel, whatever that you have consumed, your perception, you have to do a test to see whether your ideas are actually accepted, or as how you perceive to be. And it changes every single time you go to different places. People have
Ni
different
macam design
understanding about
thinking
things.
crash course.
So that hopefully will help you shape your own values, right?
I like the word that you use, empowerment. That's actually the word I was looking for. Empowerment for the people so
Memperkasa,
that, sorry? Yes, memperkasakan. You know,
memperkasa. Ha.
bukan memperkosa, memperkasakan orang ramai so that they can make decision. Okay, and I I would like to thank my Sifu for joining us, and he said he is very happy with the exchange of ideas on sustainability, and thank you for participating. But he said, unfortunately, there are only about 30 views. Organizers should get more, should reach out more participants in this discussion. Thank you,
We
Lee.
will. We will. Wait, but Yasmin, I would like to know from the
Nazrin,
female
thank you.
perspective, from a mother yourself. What do you see? How important it is the knowledge transfer and education, from the older generation passing down to the younger generation.
I don't know, monkey see, monkey do. If you do it as part of what is normal at home, I don't see any reason why it won't rub off from your kids. Um, and yeah, I mean, I I can't emphasize more on, while we talk about empowerment, we talk about education. The fundamental thing is whether that individual has that motivation or drive to even want to consider doing that. And being mindful and respectful that, like I said, the level of importance of things depend on where you are in life really currently. If you're rich, you can buy everything green and live green. If you're not and you're worried about putting food in your table the next day, then green will not be a priority, or green needs to make economic sense. So again, it goes back to perception. Where are you in society? Number one. Number two, what level of information you have or you want to have, or level of education. Number three, whether you live in an environment or community that supports you in doing such things. I think one of the few things I hear a lot is, I'm already recycling, I'm already composting, but how do I get more people around me to do it? You know, that kind of thing. And then that, I said, is a different topic. It's about leadership. It's about really personal development, how you find drives, what's your ambition, what's your goal. Some people are less selfish than others, so their drive is different. And eventually influencing someone in power that can make changes to bigger things like policy. So it depends where it hits you. Could be an unfortunate thing, could be a fortunate thing, could be a moment of realization. But one fundamental thing I like the audience to think is, unless you're an atheist, most of us have a strong cultural or religious background, somewhat. And the fundamental of sustainable living, I think, is very well clearly in these books that are meant to guide us with values and how to live a pious person, a mindful person, a spiritual person. I think that fundamental connection to what has already existed for thousands of years is slowly diminishing, slowly reducing. And I don't know if you fix that, it will save the world. But I don't think we can go wrong if we have more of that. You know what I mean? Did I
Thank
answer
you
your
so much.
question?
Well said. Very
You,
well
you,
said.
don't- you don't have to answer the questions.
Yeah, it's a food for thought for everyone. I
Yeah.
Okay,
guess
emo.
Yasmin,
I'm.
when
Yes,
you are
Amlir.
presented with a few options, and it seems that almost all options are not environmentally friendly, then you have to choose the greenest option. From my point of view, for example, when you are in the forest and you have to cut down the last species of a certain species of tree in order for you to build a shelter. A shelter is a necessity for survival. Then by all means, chop it down. I hope the
Yeah.
situation will never occur. For example, another case, this is very hypothetical. When you are being confronted by the last tiger in Malaysia, are you going to let the tiger eat you, or you're going to kill the tiger because you want to save your life? By default, you want to save your life, and you're going to ask your friend, please shoot the tiger. I don't care whether it's the last tiger or the whatever, please shoot the tiger. So we are talking about, that's why I said sometimes sustainability cannot be quantified. You know, when you have to do it, you just do it. Okay. And that's why I said the option of going to the traditional lifestyle is for me, it's a very green option. But I myself, I admit that I won't be able to do it because I'm used to drive a car. I'm used to have a house which is bigger than I need. You know, I have like
Now we know.
20 shirts, 20 shirts in my closet. I even met someone who claims to be like
You
a
prefer shirtless kan, Amle?
sorry, what is that?
You prefer
Tadi cakap,
shirtless kan?
A forest lover who has 365 shirts in his closet because he said all these shirts are environmental and I use them. I use one every day. So
the irony. I remember a bunch of kids going for a protest against the oil and gas industry, and found out that they were driving there. Do you get it? They were protesting against the fossil fuel industry, but they drove there.
Are they driving electric cars?
And then I hope so, for goodness sake, or an electric one. But then anyway, electric is also from fossil fuel in our country. And there was another irony where I think I told this many times before. Undergraduate students came up to me and wanted to interview me for a green tech project. And the question was two questions. Number one is, can you define green tech? Number two, which is greener, an electric bike or a normal bike? And that's when I was like, is this a trick question or what? So I told her, I'm not going to answer it, you answer it. And then hands down, in a split second, she says, of course, electric bike is greener. And I was like, no, what are we teaching our kids? Does anyone know what it takes to make an electric bike? Dah lah, you're going to charge. Battery, gonna buang battery, and what is the battery made of? So what is this perception of green for you? You're telling me for hundreds of years, people have been human powering their bikes by cycling, and that's not green? And then you have an EV bike, and that's greener? That is really strange. I mean, the perception, while it has evolved, is some perception are also like super flawed. And you're talking about educated kids here, and they don't see it. They don't see beyond that. You slap a green sticker, it's the better option for you.
Wrong educational system, and they are called educated.
Janganlah. It's a prestigious institution, Wei. Don't say that. I like to think I can change that. It was a prestigious uni. I just think, I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, you've got YouTube, you've got Google. As a student, the world of knowledge is at your fingertips.
That's the irony,
if I
right?
had Google when I was 13, that would change me completely.
Okay, sorry.
You know?
So we're talking about technology now. So I know we're wrapping up soon, but we actually have a question that asks, what are some of the sustainability problems that technology are able to solve or facilitate? Since we're already on that topic right now.
Oof.
Food.
No,
You
technology.
mean
Wow.
Tak
Technology.
payah nak
I think
tanam.
almost
Tak payah tanam atas tanah. And
what are accessibility problems that
Oh,
technology
should
able
I
to
go?
solve?
Or
I
should
think
I-
understand that question
I think
first.
almost
food,
I think
Niza,
almost
it's food.
based on what I
Growing your own
understand,
food, making sure we get affordable food.
but he said technology able to solve or to facilitate. So I think every industry, has some sort of technology to address sustainability problems. But I think the question is availability
Some more than others.
and reach out, accessibility, capacity, right, Yasmin? And ownership, like at the moment it's more about
Yeah, but he's asking what sustainability problems.
That
He's
technology
asking
can-
about what subject matter sustainability can
Yes,
technology
it depends
solve.
on what kind of
Yeah.
problem I'm talking
Technology
about.
is here, definitely.
It could be
Yeah, I
something.
think food
Yeah.
problems is critical
Yeah.
because selagi ada manusia, we need to eat. But we need to eat sustainably. We need to farm sustainably. We need to grow food sustainably. We know soil is getting more polluted. Soil is getting more scarce. To be honest, our kids today are not interested to be farmers unless you put tech behind it. Automated farming, food delivery, all that. I think the food
Green
industry
computing, solving
alone,
energy
if you
problems.
revolutionize it, and soon, there's 3D lab printed meat, and you're selling in restaurants in Singapore already. I hope we'll get a restaurant like this soon. It's $30 a burger, but it's made completely meatless but tastes like meat. So this is the future, I think. You have to also start.
During the MCO, I wish I have my own farm so that I don't have to get my food delivered or go out, and because it's food, it's about food. That is the most important thing we need.
Necessity, right?
Yeah.
Food, shelter, clothing lah. 3 benda ni yang paling essential to human being, tolonglah revolutionizekan kat
Yes.
situ. Sebab
That's why.
manusia will always need clothing
that-
and fashionable. So there is a lot of room there. Food, shelter, the way we build our homes. Come on, kita bukannya ada reseh pun dalam the homes that
basic
we live
needs
in,
lah.
betul tak? Cuba
Yes.
kalau
That's why some people are asking the question: are environmental organizations actually social organizations? Because at the end of the day, we are talking about the social benefits, health benefits, food, food which is under health, education, shelter, and also communication or transportation. At the end of the day, you're going to reach that. So are the environmental activists are actually social activists, because they are working for social, unless you preserve the forest just for the sake of the forest, for nothing else.
Yeah, because you have to mobilize the people,
tapi Niza,
right? Because you can't mobilize
yeah, well,
the animals or the trees to sort out itself, right? So it's
Yeah.
as much in reaching out or like working with the society to solve a problem lah. So the to me the outcome of working with societies, I mean with people, through to on a noble movement or initiative will have a result on the environment lah. Like you need the people to mobilize it. You want to plant a tree, you need people to plant a
yeah,
tree. So the effect is that the environment will take care, but the
Oh
human
my
are
God,
going to
there
be
are a lot of
the
questions coming in.
manpower or the resources to mobilize
yeah. But
environmental
to
change.
answer Niza's question,
Yeah,
right?
so that's what I think. Yeah.
Teknologi sahaja, teknologi sahaja pun susah. You kena ada right policies, the right push from the right sector to push this through.
And the right
So,
attitude.
and we know this for a fact. Banyak macam-macam, macam-macam teknologi ada. Tapi kalau kita tak tahu nak apply teknologi tu,
Correct.
buat apa? Beli
Technology
mahal-mahal, duduk kat lab. And I've seen this in research institutions.
technology is neutral. It depends on us. How are we going to use it? You can use a gun for a good reason. You can use a gun for a bad reason. That's all.
Yeah.
But you can't blame the gun for
You
how
cannot
it's
blame
being
the gun.
used.
Yes, you cannot blame the gun.
You
At the
cannot
end
blame
of
the
the day,
gun.
it's the values. The values will decide on how are you going to use the gun. That's why I always stress values. And I'm glad that some people mention about education, melentur buluh biada
Buluh,
daripada
yeah.
rutinnya, And then, Lana, do you think the government is doing enough in educating general public at school? Can we talk about that in another
Itu
session?
topik 2 jam minggu depan.
Maybe
Okay,
we should get
thank
somebody
you.
from the Ministry of Education who
Hanya
is willing to
Amlir,
talk
hanya
something to
Amlir
them.
je.
No, get
Alright.
somebody from the Ministry of Education under the curriculum sector.
Okay, so you guys, we talk about how to mobilize people, how to empower people. So the key is knowledge is power. It goes back to education. It goes back to how we change our own perception before we change the perception of the others. So thank you so much, guys. I'm so sorry that I have to do this, but this is all the time that we have for today.
Thank you,
I
Fara.
would like, thank you so much for this amazing, mind-blowing. I feel like I'm mentally exhausted right now, but it's worth it. It's a knowledge that we all need.
Sorry.
So thank you so much, Yasmin, Fadli, and Amle for this great input during this Sembang session. We will be seeing you
Yeah,
guys.
but
Yes, Fadli.
Farah, if I may just say, I think there was someone just now I forgot the name mentioned that like he said that this is a very good or like giving compliments to us. Thank you so much. But he said that or that person said that however there's only 30 people watching it. You should reach out to more. So I guess if you think that this is good, hopefully we are doing this on a weekly basis. please share, right?
Mm.
I think we need more people to also listen, and I think the difference is this conversation is personal. As much as you want to talk about EcoKnights, about our vision, but I think it's more about our personal values, personal things that we feel might sometimes that might not be, like too in line with the organization. But I think the appreciation is like we all try to say something that is personal on how we feel, and how we feel is different from everyone, and we appreciate it. And it's also from four different generations, right, or three different generations.
Yep.
So if we get more people who are not very into it, who is trying to listen to different point of view, I feel like these people need to come in and listen to our session next time.
Yes, we'll
Yeah.
be having this every week. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for the viewers who are watching. Please do share our session today. To the speakers, we'll be seeing you guys next week with a brand new host and a brand new deep
Oh,
talk
stop calling us speakers. We're permanent guests in the
topic.
show. You're the one we're rotating.
I know. Well, yeah.
permanent permanent guest, and and apa and invited host.
So I actually have an outro for this, guys. So
Yeah.
Sembang Alam, we are a show
Let's see it.
where
Let's see it.
wait, so Sembang Alam, we are a show where the speakers get to explore what they seek and the hosts get replaced every week. So thank you so much, guys, for today. Um, I will be seeing you guys next week. Nabila, you can take them away. So just to share with you guys, the audience out there, we actually have, if you actually enjoy our session today, um, we actually have other digital projects under the School of Sustainability, where we have our own workshops, our talks, and our webinars. So the next upcoming workshop is actually on the 20th of June. 20 Jun guys. 20th of June from 11 until 11:30, where we'll be talking about composting. We'll teach you guys about how to compost. So I guess that's it. I already said my outro just now. I was gonna say it. You know what? I'll just say it again. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for tuning in. Sembang Alam is a show. Well, kita dah upgrade lah. Kita ada like background music lagi. So Sembang Alam is a show where we get to see how the speakers get to explore what they seek and the host gets replaced every week. Thank you so much, guys. Stay safe, stay sane, and good night.